Alright guys, welcome back. Part 2, we're going to tear it down. Try to do this as quick as I can for the video. Here we go. You're going to find it's a lot like working on your brushless truck, not much different. Alright, cage is off. Okay. Pull our fuel lines off. Air filter. And we'll protect our carb. Alright, so we got a little mount here for the air filter just to steady it so it doesn't want to fall off. Keep it on, we'll take off the receiver cover here. So I've had all this plugged in and tested. You can see I've numbered all my channels with wire tags. Just for the purpose of video, it'll just be a lot easier to take apart. So let's take out. I incorporated the fuel filter mount right into a servo mount here. Just a nice place to put it. Now all the cage supports, they're all factory screw holes. Nothing changed. Mostly just like working on your brushless truck. Alright. I disconnected the carburetor already just to make this easier. So this throttle linkage is from a Savage. It's an aftermarket alloy unit, but Savages also use the parallel chassis, quite narrow. What works for them, worked for me. Who says you don't have to fight with things, eh? I ended up moving this receiver box back a bit to give me more room for this, but I'll just pull this servo up first. on there. Okay, so throttle, servo, linkage, everything off. So we can see, if I move you in closer, this is a mount on what I'm calling my upper chassis braces. So on the right side, it's holding the servo mount. It's also tied into holding the brake and the reverse servos, but it's acting as a chassis stiffener as well. One thing I didn't like about the LMT was this big gaping hole on one side. It just kind of looked weak to me. So you'll see that basically these braces are serving a lot of purposes. So we'll move on here. Always helps if you have the right bit. So our sponsor plates, that's all stock. Nothing altered there. Well, I shouldn't say that. There's one little notch right here where I had to relocate my rear upper links. I just clearanced the plate for that, just so I could pull the links without having to pull that plate every time. You're free. I'm just gonna get all the servo wires out of here. Not fun, but you have worked on your RCs. It's no different. Just more servos. And the power wires from the Castle BDC can come out. Okie dokie. That's all out of the way. Spin the truck around. And we'll do the same over here. Just pull off the cage support. Don't know if I'm going to run this yet, but it's there if I want to. Side guard off. This is the side where a lot of the magic happened here. The Revo transmission, in order for me to get this engine centered in a very narrow chassis, what I liked about the Revo transmission was the offset spur gear, which you'll see shortly. Basically, it allows, if I zoom in here, you can see the spur gear right here with the slipper unit. Now that actually sticks out the side of the chassis, as you can just tell here. So this mid-frame had to be clearance for all of that, and there was a bit of trial and error going on there, because I started out with the stock Traxxas 38 tooth, which was way too small and caused the engine to drop significantly to the point that I had almost no rear suspension travel. And before we get into it, you can see my little reverse high clearance links. I call them low clearance links. That was done to give me full suspension travel with the motor the way it is. But to get the engine high enough, and it's still actually quite low in the chassis, I went to Savage's 40 tooth spur gear, still not enough. and I ended up adapting a Savage 44 tooth Robinson spur gear slipper setup, which has got me where I needed to be. So that's something you may want to consider if you're going to run a Revo Trans. You might have the same issue. You can only do so much with the height. Okay, if we're looking at the drive shafts here, we want to have our outputs equal length to our suspension arms, and we want to be roughly in the middle of our suspension points too. That way our shafts aren't having to overextend or, you know, really telescope, like whatever the word is, more than they have to. So the transmission, you'll find if you do it the way I've done it, pretty much has to go where it has to go. All right, moving on. I'm going to pull the engine, but versus taking all the pipes and everything out. I've watched many videos like this too, and I understand it's painful to watch, but it's all part. A little bit easier because I haven't put Loctite everywhere, but that's why I'm taking it all apart. Is it'll be final assembly once I'm done all this. So. And I've had the truck apart quite a few times, so where all these screw goes, it comes back to me pretty easy now. Pull our shock out. Yeah, I guess I didn't mention I'm running, I don't know the guy that came up with the UDR limit straps, but they work very nice. Perfect length, 108 millimeter. Even work on a nitro truck. One of those nice factory screws Lucy left me. Add a few of those in here. We'll just change that out with a new one. So it might not seem intuitive what I'm doing here, but I'm literally pulling this one rear frame to get the engine out. I just want to do it with the exhaust and everything complete. It all bolts together just like the brushless truck that way.